The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the Imperial fleet. Countless stars twinkled in the distance, their light a testament to the vastness of the universe. At the helm of the fleet's command ship, High Commander Du Jin stood tall, his pristine white uniform reflecting the soft blue glow of the bridge's instruments. The fleet had been patrolling this sector for weeks, asserting the Empire's dominance over their newly claimed territory. Du Jin took pride in leading the most powerful armada ever assembled. 500 warships, each capable of reducing a planet to ash. Their mere presence usually sent other species scrambling for cover or begging for mercy. "Sir, we're picking up an anomaly," reported the sensor officer, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "Single vessel, approximately 2 kilometers in length. Design doesn't match any known species in our database." Du Jin walked closer to the main view screen, studying the strange ship. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Sleek lines, smooth surfaces, and an almost artistic quality to its construction. No visible weapons, no apparent shield generators, nothing that marked it as a warship, yet something about it made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "Magnification," he ordered, and the image zoomed in. The vessel's hull bore markings in an unfamiliar script, but what caught his attention was how it moved, or rather, didn't move. It wasn't trying to hide or run. It simply drifted there, as if its crew hadn't even noticed the massive fleet approaching. "Send the standard surrender demand," Du Jin commanded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Let's see how quickly these primitives submit to Imperial authority." Inside the Earth exploration vessel, Wanderlust, Captain Jai-Ho sat in his command chair, enjoying his morning coffee. The brew was perfect, real beans from his family's farm in Korea, not the synthesized stuff most ships carried. He savored another sip as the Imperial message came through. "Attention unknown vessel. You have entered restricted Imperial space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction. You have 5 minutes to comply." Jai-Ho's first officer, Hannah, let out a small snort of laughter before catching herself. She stood at her station, dark eyes twinkling with amusement, as she watched the Imperial fleet's formation on the tactical display. "They really have no idea, do they, sir?" "Can't blame them," Jai-Ho replied, setting down his coffee cup. "We've kept ourselves hidden for a reason. Though I have to admit, their ships are quite impressive. For their level of technology, of course." The bridge crew went about their duties with casual efficiency. None showed any sign of concern about the hundreds of warships surrounding them. Lieutenant Park at Communications was actually humming to himself as he monitored the channels. "Should we tell them?" Jai-Ho asked, glancing at Hannah. The question wasn't really about whether to reveal humanity's true capabilities. That decision would come from much higher up. He was more curious about his first officer's read on the situation. Hannah shook her head, still grinning. "Let them figure it out themselves, Captain. Sometimes the best lessons are the ones you learn on your own." She paused, checking a reading on her console. "Though I do feel a bit bad for them. This is going to be quite a shock to their system." Back on the Imperial flagship, Du Jin was growing impatient. 3 minutes had passed, and the alien vessel hadn't responded or made any moves to comply. How dare they ignore an Imperial demand? He was about to order a warning shot when his tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the target. Their power output." He trailed off, frowning at his instruments. "Sir, these readings can't be right. According to this, they're operating on an energy scale that would make our most powerful reactors look like chemical batteries." Du Jin's confidence wavered for the first time. Something wasn't adding up. The ship's design was too simple, too elegant. Where were they hiding such powerful technology? And why weren't they afraid? As the 5-minute deadline approached, Jai-Ho finished his coffee and stood up. "Well, I suppose we should at least acknowledge their message. It would be rude not to." He straightened his simple black uniform and nodded to Lieutenant Park. "Open a channel, please. Visual and audio." The Imperial bridge crew collectively gasped as the human captain's image appeared on their screen. He looked remarkably similar to their own species, yet there was something about his relaxed posture and gentle smile that seemed almost patronizing. "This is Captain Jai-Ho of the Earth exploration vessel Wanderlust," he said pleasantly. "I apologize for not responding sooner. We were just finishing our morning coffee. I'm afraid we won't be powering down or preparing for boarding, but we're happy to open a diplomatic dialogue if you'd like to discuss things more civilly." Dujin's face flushed with anger at the casual dismissal of Imperial authority. But before he could respond, his science officer called out in a panicked voice, "Sir, the scans we just completed. This can't be possible. Their hull, it's made of materials we can't even identify. And their defensive systems." He looked up, face pale. "Sir, I don't think we could damage that ship if we hit it with our entire fleet's combined firepower." For the first time in his distinguished career, High Commander Dujin felt a chill of real fear run down his spine. As he stared at the human captain's friendly smile on the view screen, he had the distinct feeling that his empire's understanding of their place in the galaxy was about to change dramatically. Rage clouded Dujin's judgment as he watched the human captain's calm face on the view screen. No one had ever dared to dismiss Imperial authority so casually. His hand trembled slightly as he gave the order that would teach these humans the price of their arrogance. "Prepare the stellar cannon," he commanded, his voice hard with suppressed anger. The bridge crew rushed to comply, though some exchanged worried glances. The stellar cannon was not a weapon to be used lightly. It could crack planets when fired at full power. Deep within the Imperial flagship, ancient machinery hummed to life. The massive weapon had been the Empire's crowning achievement, developed over decades at enormous cost. Its purple energy beam could pierce any known shield, cut through any armor. Even the most powerful civilizations they'd encountered feared its destructive potential. "Sir," Kita ventured cautiously, "perhaps we should consider—" "Fire," Dujin cut him off. He would not be made a fool of by these unknowns. The stellar cannon's discharge lit up space like a newborn star. The purple beam, beautiful in its terrible power, streaked across the void toward the Wanderlust. Dujin allowed himself a small smile, anticipating the humans' panic when they realized their mistake. Aboard the Wanderlust, life continued as normal. Lieutenant Subin was updating the ship's stellar cartography database, marking points of interest for future exploration. When the weapon's energy signature registered on her instruments, she glanced at it briefly before returning to her work. The ship's defensive systems would handle it automatically, just like they handled everything from micrometeorites to solar flares. "Incoming weapons fire," the ship's AI announced calmly. "Standard particle dispersal engage." Captain Jiho nodded absently, more interested in the cultural report he was reading about the Empire's development. "Thank you, ship. Let me know if anything interesting happens." The purple beam struck the Wanderlust's defensive field. There was no dramatic flash, no mighty clash of energies. The beam simply ceased to exist, its energy transformed and dispersed harmlessly into space. To human eyes, it looked like morning fog evaporating in sunlight. On the Imperial flagship's bridge, silence fell. Dujin stared at his screens in disbelief, unable to process what he'd just witnessed. The Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of destroying worlds, had been neutralized without apparent effort. The human ship hadn't even raised shields in the conventional sense. Their sensors detected no energy barrier, no defensive screen. Kita's fingers flew across his console as he analyzed the readings. "Sir," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "their defensive technology. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. Our sensors can't even begin to understand the principles behind it." "Explain," Dujin demanded, still staring at the undamaged human vessel. "It's as if—" Kita struggled to find the words. "It's as if they're operating on a completely different level of physics. The beam didn't impact a shield or get absorbed. It was transformed, somehow. Changed at a fundamental level we don't understand." Hana leaned over to Captain Jeho on the Wanderlust's bridge. They seem upset, she observed, watching the Imperial fleet's energy readings spike with what she assumed was agitation. It's understandable, Jeho replied. Finding out you're not at the top of the technological hierarchy can be difficult. Remember our first contact with the Guardians? We were just as shocked when they showed us what was really possible. Lieutenant Subin finally looked up from her console. Should I prepare a basic physics package for them? Something to help explain why their weapon couldn't work against our field. Jeho considered this for a moment. Not yet. Let's not overwhelm them. They'll need time to process what they've seen. He turned to his communications officer. Please open a channel. Dojin was still demanding explanations from his science team when the human captain's face appeared on his screen again. The man's expression was sympathetic, almost apologetic. I understand that was your most powerful weapon, Jeho said gently. I want to assure you that we mean no harm. We could have blocked your sensors from detecting us, or simply left, but we believe it's time for your civilization to know that you're not alone out here. There's so much more to the galaxy than you've discovered. Dojin found his voice at last. What are you? We're human, Jeho replied simply. We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. We've been watching your empire grow, protecting you from threats you never knew existed. And now, perhaps, it's time for you to join the larger galactic community. As the implications of those words sank in, Dojin slowly sat down in his command chair. His empire, which he'd thought stood at the pinnacle of achievement, might be nothing more than a child taking its first steps among the stars. And these humans, with their casual dismissal of his most powerful weapons, were offering to guide them. What threats? He asked finally, his curiosity overcoming his pride. What threats could be worse than our weapons? Jeho's smile widened slightly. That's a very good first question, Commander. Would you like to learn more? Dojin had never felt so uncertain in his entire military career. The strange human ship had just brushed off their most powerful weapon, like it was nothing more than a gentle breeze. His pride, however, wouldn't let him back down. With trembling fingers, he activated the emergency beacon, a call that would bring the Empire's most elite battleships to his aid. Send the signal to the Third Fleet, he ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. I want every Crimson-class battleship here within the hour. The Third Fleet was the Empire's pride, ships so advanced that most civilizations surrendered at their mere mention. As his communications officer transmitted the distress call, strange readings began appearing on their sensor arrays. Kitaz's eyes widened as he studied the data. Sir, something's happening to space itself. Before their astonished eyes, the fabric of reality seemed to tear open. It wasn't like the normal faster-than-light travel they were familiar with. These were actual rips in space-time, defying everything they thought they knew about physics. Through these impossible tears, human ships began to emerge. They came in all sizes, each one as elegantly designed as the Wanderlust. Some were massive, dwarfing even the Imperial flagship, while others were smaller and sleeker. Their appearances weren't flashy or threatening. They simply existed, radiating in quiet confidence that made them all the more intimidating. On the Wanderlust's bridge, Captain Jeho smiled as familiar signatures appeared on his displays. He'd expected this response. It was standard procedure to send support when first contact situations became complicated. Ship, please open a general channel, he requested. Hey Jeho, thought you might want some company, came the cheerful voice of Captain Tai. Her ship, the Starbound, was one of the larger vessels that had just arrived. We were in the neighborhood and noticed you were having an interesting conversation. Tahi, how's the family? Jeho responded warmly. Did Minji finally decide which university she's attending? She's still torn between Mars Institute and Titan Tech. Tahi laughed. You know how teenagers are. By the way, we're having Korean barbecue in the main mess hall tonight. You and your crew should join us. More human captains joined the conversation, their casual banter filling the communication channels. They discussed weekend plans, shared family updates, and debated the best recipes for various dishes. It was as if the massive Imperial fleet surrounding them didn't even exist. On the Imperial flagship, Du-Jin listened to these exchanges with growing bewilderment. His sensor officers reported that the human ships were using technologies that shouldn't exist, drives that bent space itself, energy readings that went off their scales, and materials that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. "Sir," Kite reported, his voice shaking, "we're detecting more ships arriving. Their method of travel, it's like they're walking through doors in space itself. Our scientists, we never even theorized this was possible." Jai-Ho considered this for a moment. "Not yet. Let's not overwhelm them. They'll need time to process what they've seen." He turned to his communications officer. "Please open a channel." Du-Jin was still demanding explanations from his science team when the human captain's face appeared on his screen again. The man's expression was sympathetic, almost apologetic. "I understand that was your most powerful weapon," Jai-Ho said gently. "I want to assure you that we mean no harm. We could have blocked your sensors from detecting us, or simply left, but we believe it's time for your civilization to know that you're not alone out here. There's so much more to the galaxy than you've discovered." Du-Jin found his voice at last. What are you?" "We're human," Jai-Ho replied simply. "We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. We've been watching your empire grow, protecting you from threats you never knew existed. And now, perhaps, it's time for you to join the larger galactic community." As the implications of those words sank in, Du-Jin slowly sat down in his command chair. His empire, which he'd thought stood at the pinnacle of achievement, might be nothing more than a child taking its first steps among the stars. And these humans, with their casual dismissal of his most powerful weapons, were offering to guide them. "What threats?" he asked finally, his curiosity overcoming his pride. "What threats could be worse than our weapons?" Jai-Ho's smile widened slightly. "That's a very good first question, Commander. Would you like to learn more?" Du-Jin had never felt so uncertain in his entire military career. The strange human ship had just brushed off their most powerful weapon, like it was nothing more than a gentle breeze. His pride, however, wouldn't let him back down. With trembling fingers, he activated the emergency beacon, a call that would bring the Empire's most elite battleships to his aid. "Send the signal to the Third Fleet," he ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. "I want every Crimson-class battleship here within the hour." The Third Fleet was the Empire's pride, ships so advanced that most civilizations surrendered at their mere mention. As his communications officer transmitted the distress call, strange readings began appearing on their sensor arrays. Kita's eyes widened as he studied the data. "Sir, something's happening to space itself." Before their astonished eyes, the fabric of reality seemed to tear open. It wasn't like the normal faster-than-light travel they were familiar with. These were actual rips in space-time, defying everything they thought they knew about physics. Through these impossible tiers, human ships began to emerge. They came in all sizes, each one as elegantly designed as the Wanderlust. Some were massive, dwarfing even the Imperial flagship, while others were smaller and sleeker. Their appearances weren't flashy or threatening. They simply existed, radiating in quiet confidence that made them all the more intimidating. On the Wanderlust's bridge, Captain Jai-Ho smiled as familiar signatures appeared on his displays. He'd expected this response. It was standard procedure to send support when first contact situations became complicated. "Ship, please open a general channel," he requested. "Hey Jai-Ho, thought you might want some company," came the cheerful voice of Captain Tai. Her ship, the Starbound, was one of the larger vessels that had just arrived. "We were in the neighborhood and noticed you were having an interesting conversation." "Tai, how's the family?" Jai-Ho responded warmly. "Did Minji finally decide which university she's attending?" "She's still torn between Mars Institute and Titan Tech," Tahi laughed. You know how teenagers are. By the way, we're having Korean barbecue in the main mess hall tonight. You and your crew should join us." More human captains joined the conversation, their casual banter filling the communication channels. They discussed weekend plans, shared family updates, and debated the best recipes for various dishes. It was as if the massive Imperial fleet surrounding them didn't even exist. On the Imperial flagship, Du-Jin listened to these exchanges with growing bewilderment. His sensor officers reported that the human ships were using technologies that shouldn't exist, drives that bent space itself, energy readings that went off their scales, and materials that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. "Sir," Kite reported, his voice shaking, "we're detecting more ships arriving. Their method of travel, it's like they're walking through doors in space itself. Our scientists, we never even theorized this was possible." Du-Jin watched as another human vessel emerged, this one seemingly phasing into existence without any energy signature at all. His mighty fleet, the terror of 1,000 worlds, suddenly felt very small and primitive. Are they really talking about dinner plans?" asked one of his bridge officers in disbelief. Indeed, the humans had moved on to discussing various restaurants across their territory. Captain Tahi was enthusiastically recommending a place on something called New Singapore Station that apparently served excellent laksa. "Sir," Kita said quietly, "the Third Fleet has responded. They'll be here in 40 minutes. He hesitated before adding, "But given what we've seen, will it make any difference?" Du-Jin had no answer. He watched as more human ships continued to arrive, each one demonstrating capabilities that made his empire's most advanced technology look like children's toys. Their casual disregard for his fleet's presence wasn't meant as an insult, he realized. They simply had no reason to be concerned. "Should we perhaps," he suggested carefully, "consider accepting their offer of diplomatic dialogue?" As if in response to his question, Captain Jaiho's voice came through their speakers again. "Commander Du-Jin, while we wait for your reinforcements to arrive, would you like to join us for dinner? Captain Tai, he makes excellent bulgogi, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the greater galactic community." The offer was so mundane, so normal, that Du-Jin found himself laughing despite the situation. Here he was, commanding the most powerful fleet in known space, and these humans were treating first contact like a neighborhood gathering. I would be honored," he replied, finally understanding that this was how true power behaved, not with threats or displays of force, but with casual confidence and offers of friendship. "Excellent," Ji-ho responded cheerfully. "And don't worry about your Third Fleet. When they arrive, they're welcome to join us too." "The more the merrier," Imperial diplomat Yoon Seo smoothed her formal robes one final time before stepping onto the Wanderlust's teleportation pad. After the shocking display of power from the human fleet, the Empire had quickly shifted from military confrontation to diplomatic outreach. As their most skilled negotiator, Yoon Seo was chosen to represent Imperial interests. She had prepared extensively, studying what little they knew about these humans. Their technology was clearly advanced, but she expected to find beings who had developed too quickly, lacking the cultural sophistication that came with gradual evolution. Many species they'd encountered were like that, technically powerful, but socially primitive. The teleportation was unlike anything she'd experienced before. There was no sensation of movement, no disorientation. One moment she was on the Imperial shuttle. The next she stood in a warmly lit reception area. The walls seemed to be made of actual wood, with delicate paintings hanging at perfect intervals. A young woman in a simple black uniform greeted her with a respectful bow. "Welcome aboard the Wanderlust, Diplomat Yoon Seo. I'm First Officer Hannah. Please, follow me." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Yoon Seo's carefully constructed assumptions began to crumble. The crew they passed wore no obvious rank insignia, yet moved with quiet purpose. The air smelled faintly of flowers. Soft music played from hidden speakers. This wasn't the sterile, technology-focused environment she'd expected. Hannah led her to what appeared to be a traditional meeting room. Low tables of dark wood gleamed in the gentle lighting. Cushions were arranged on the floor in the formal style of her own people. Captain Jeho waited inside, dressed not in a military uniform, but in simple civilian clothes. Diplomat Yoon Seo. He greeted her warmly, bowing. "Please, make yourself comfortable. Hannah will prepare tea for us." Yoon Seo settled onto a cushion, watching as Hannah began the elaborate process of preparing traditional Korean tea. Her movements were precise, elegant, clearly well practiced. You know our customs," Yoon Seo said quietly. Jeho smiled. "We've been studying your civilization for a very long time. Your people's tea ceremony is particularly beautiful. We've adopted many elements of it ourselves." Studying us. Yoon Seo's diplomatic training couldn't quite hide her surprise. "For how long?" "Since before your empire existed," Hannah replied, carefully measuring the tea leaves. "We were there when your people first achieved faster-than-light travel. We watched as you formed your first colonies, established your first interstellar government." The implications of this statement staggered Yoon Seo. But that was 50,000 years ago. "Our earliest records are quite accurate," Jeho finished. "We call it the Guardian Protocol. Humanity reached the stars long before your people looked up at them and wondered what was possible. We found a galaxy full of developing civilizations, each with their own potential, their own path to follow." Hannah served the tea with perfect form, the aromatic steam rising between them. "We decided early on that direct intervention would do more harm than good. Young civilizations need to find their own way, make their own mistakes, learn their own lessons." "But you have such power," Yoon Seo said, accepting the teacup. "You could have conquered everything, ruled the galaxy." Jeho's expression turned serious. "Power isn't just about ability. It's about responsibility. We learned that lesson from those who came before us. The truly advanced civilizations we first encountered showed us that same patience, that same respect for natural development. There are others." Yoon Seo nearly dropped her cup. "More advanced than even you." "Of course," Hannah smiled. "The galaxy is very old, diplomat. There are layers upon layers of civilization, each watching over those who come after. We're simply one link in a very long chain." Jeho leaned forward slightly. "Your empire is quite young, barely 50,000 years old. We wanted to give you space to grow, to develop your own identity. We've been watching, protecting, and gently guiding when necessary." "Protecting? From what?" "There are threats out there that your people aren't ready to face," Hannah explained, pouring more tea. "Things that would have destroyed your civilization before it had a chance to flourish. We've been your silent guardians, dealing with dangers you never knew existed." Yoon Seo sat in silence for a moment, processing this information. Everything she believed about her empire's place in the galaxy was being rewritten. "All this time," she said finally, "we thought we were alone at the top. We thought we were the most advanced." "It's a natural assumption," Jeho said kindly, "and you've done remarkably well for such a young civilization. Your achievements in art, literature, science, they're impressive. We've learned much from watching your development." "And now?" Yoon Seo asked. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Hannah exchanged a glance with her captain before answering. "Because you're ready. Your empire has reached a crucial point in its development. The choices you make now will determine your path for millennia to come. We think it's time you understood your place in the larger galactic community." As Yoon Seo sipped her perfectly prepared tea, she realized that this meeting wasn't a negotiation at all. It was an invitation to step into a larger universe than her people had ever imagined existed. The holographic displays in the Imperial flagship's command center cast a soft blue glow over the gathered officers' faces. Du Jin sat at the head of the conference table, his usually pristine uniform showing signs of wear after hours of continuous duty. Around him, the Empire's brightest minds had gathered to understand what they were dealing with. Kita stood before them, his hands shaking slightly as he manipulated the holographic data streams. The young science officer had barely slept in the past 2 days, analyzing every scrap of information they'd gathered about the human vessels. "Commander, what I'm about to show you will change everything we thought we knew about physics," Kita began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our initial scans barely scratched the surface. The more we look, the more impossible it becomes." The hologram shifted, showing the internal structure of a human ship, or rather, what their sensors could perceive of it. Most of the image was blank, marked with unknown material warnings. "Their hull isn't just advanced alloy," Ketat explained. It's like they've taken matter itself and convinced it to behave differently. They've mastered energy conversion at the quantum level. What we considered impossible, they achieved millennia ago." Du Jin leaned forward, studying the readings. "Explain it in simple terms, Kita. What are we looking at?" Kita took a deep breath. "Sir, we're like children playing with wooden boats while they've built oceans. Our most advanced technology, our proudest achievements. To them, it's primitive. Elementary school science." He brought up another display, showing energy readings from when the humans had arrived through their spatial tiers. "Look at this. They don't just travel faster than light. They step outside of space itself. They can create, destroy, and reshape matter at will. Their ships aren't just vessels. They're like pieces of reality that they've taught to think." "This is a basic containment field," Subin explained, her voice carrying the patient tone of a teacher. "We use it for studying dangerous phenomena or preserving delicate materials. Would you like to see what else we can do with it?" Before anyone could respond, she made another adjustment. The frozen asteroid began to glow, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Then, in a flash of light that should have been blindingly bright but somehow wasn't, the entire rock transformed into pure energy. "Matter-energy conversion," Tahi commented over the comm channel. "This is basic cadet training stuff. We teach this in the first year at the academy." Subin smiled slightly and reversed the process. The energy swirled and condensed, reforming into the exact same asteroid, but now it was made of pure gold. "We can rearrange matter at the atomic level," she explained. "It's useful for manufacturing and resource management, though most of us prefer to create new materials rather than traditional elements." Do Jin found his voice at last. "New materials." "Oh yes," Hana chimed in. "Materials that can think, that respond to thoughts, that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But that might be a bit advanced for today's demonstration." The Imperial scientists were frantically trying to record everything they saw, but their instruments could barely comprehend what was happening. Kita had given up trying to take readings and was simply watching, his face filled with wonder. "Would you like to see something a bit more practical?" Jaiho asked. At Yun Sio's eager nod, he gestured to Subin. "Show them the basics of dimensional folding." The lieutenant's fingers moved again, and suddenly space itself seemed to ripple. A small tear appeared, not like the dramatic portals they'd seen before, but a subtle shifting of reality. Through it, they could see what appeared to be a peaceful garden, complete with blooming cherry trees and a small stream. That's my garden," Yun Sio whispered in shock. "On Imperial Center, thousands of light years from here." "Distance is largely a matter of perspective," Tahi explained cheerfully. "Once you understand how space really works, you can connect any 2 points instantly. We use it for communication, transport, even agriculture." Subin closed the spatial fold gently. "We can teach your people to do similar things eventually. It will take time, of course. You need to understand the basic principles first." "Basic principles?" Kite asked weakly. "What you just showed us violates everything we know about physics." "No," Jaiho corrected kindly. It violates everything you currently believe about physics. There's a difference. Your understanding of the universe is like a two-dimensional drawing of a three-dimensional object, accurate as far as it goes, but missing entire layers of reality. Yuncio stepped closer to the viewport, watching as Subin casually restored the asteroid to its original composition and released it from the time dilation field. And you'll teach us all of this. Not all at once, Hannah cautioned. But yes, we'll guide you, just as others once guided us. That's how knowledge spreads through the galaxy, each civilization lifting up those who come after. Wait until they see what we can do with dimensional folding, Taihe added with a laugh. This was just the tiniest taste. Dojin and Yuncio exchanged glances. Their empire, which had seemed so mighty just days ago, now felt like a child's first steps. But in their guide's gentle teaching and casual mastery of the impossible, they saw something wonderful. A future filled with possibilities they had never dreamed existed. The Imperial Palace's Grand Council chamber had never felt so crowded. Every seat was filled, with dignitaries, military leaders, and scientists packed shoulder to shoulder. The ancient chamber, with its towering columns and elaborate decorations, seemed somehow smaller today, humbler in the face of what they had learned. Du Jin stood before the council, his uniform pristine once again, but his bearing forever changed. Beside him, Diplomat Yuncio held a data crystal containing their reports. Their evidence would change their civilization forever. Esteemed council members, Yuncio began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. What we are about to share will reshape our understanding of everything. Our place in the galaxy, our future, and our past. The data crystal's contents spilled across the chamber's holographic displays. Images of human ships, readings from their demonstrations, and recordings of their casual mastery over physics filled the air. A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. 1 week ago, Du Jin continued, we believed ourselves to be the pinnacle of galactic civilization. We were wrong. Not just slightly wrong. Fundamentally, completely wrong. He gestured to the displays showing the human vessels. These ships, which appeared so simple to our eyes, represent technology so advanced that our finest scientists can barely comprehend its basic principles. Their crews, who treated us with such gentle patience, are part of a civilization that has washed over us since our ancestors first looked up at the stars. Keita stepped forward, presenting his analysis. Their mastery of physics goes beyond anything we imagined possible. They don't just break the laws of nature. They understand them at a level that makes our most advanced theories look like children's drawings. The council members watched in stunned silence as recordings played showing the humans' demonstrations. The casual manipulation of time and space, the effortless transformation of matter, the folding of reality itself, all presented with the patience of teachers showing basic principles to eager students. But most importantly, Yuncio added, they come not as conquerors or superiors, but as guides. They offer us friendship, knowledge, and a place in a community of civilizations that spans the galaxy. An ancient council member stood slowly. You speak of other civilizations, beyond these humans. Yes, Du Jin replied. The galaxy is layered with civilizations, each at different stages of development. The humans are just one level above us. There are others far more advanced even than they are. The chamber erupted in discussion. Questions flew from all directions. How long had they been watching? What would they teach? How would this change their empire? A sudden hush fell over the chamber as a new hologram materialized in its center. Captain Jaiho's image smiled warmly at the assembled leaders of the empire. He wore simple civilian clothes, projecting calm confidence rather than authority. Honored members of the Imperial Council, he began, his voice filling the chamber. We've been waiting for you to reach this point. Your civilization stands at a crucial threshold, ready to take its first real steps into the galaxy. He gestured, and the space around his hologram filled with images of wonders, worlds unlike any they'd seen, technologies that defied imagination, and beings that challenge their very concept of life. This is the real galaxy, Jiho continued. Not the small corner you've known, but the vast, incredible community of civilizations that share this space. We offer you friendship, guidance, and a chance to join this community. And what do you want in return? Asked the council's leader. Jiho's smile widened. Only what was given to us when we stood where you are now. The chance to watch another civilization grow, learn, and add their unique voice to the galaxy's great chorus. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Their empire, which had thought itself master of all it surveyed, was being offered a chance to become something far greater, a student of wonders they had never imagined. Welcome to the real galaxy, friends, Jiho concluded warmly. We have so much to show you. As his hologram faded, Dujin looked around the chamber. He saw fear in some faces, excitement in others, but in most, he saw what he felt in his own heart. Hope. Hope for a future bigger and brighter than anything they had dreamed possible. The Empire had reached its turning point. Their time as self-proclaimed masters of space was ending. Their time as students of the universe was about to begin. And somewhere out there, watching with patient smiles, their human teachers waited to show them wonders beyond imagination.